Hollywood loves to make these productions. I think one was entitled something like this: Don't Go in the Basement. So I can ask you, where did they all go? In the basement. Wow. They should have been afraid, and maybe they were, but they go check it out. The one that's out right now is Jurassic Park. I saw 1 or 2 or 3 of them, I think. I don't know how many they've made. But I decided I'm not going to go see. How many have seen this one? Really? Is it good? Well, I'm not going to see it. The commercials are enough. I mean, I do not need to see something where this huge bird flies out of nowhere, picks a person up, and is going to go off and eat them. I don't need that. And I don't want to dream about that kind of fear. There's enough fears in life without that entering into my mind and my dreams. But I must say, Hollywood is very smart. This is the biggest or second biggest grossing film ever, I think. Hollywood knows exactly what motivates us, knows what creates curiosity and makes us want to check it out. So they create this huge film of enormous fear, and people flock to it to be afraid. On one level, I don't get it. But Jesus knew it too. Jesus understood that we are people who can be afraid, and we can be people of fear, and they're different. It's healthy to be afraid sometimes. Fear is a wonderful emotion that alerts us. You should be afraid, and the adrenaline should move in you, and you should either fight or flight, but do something. That's healthy fear. But when fear grips us and stays in us and grows in us and paralyzes us and fills us with anxiety, it is not healthy. And that's what Jesus always wanted to banish from our lives. So today, we're in the boat with them. We get it. There they are. They've left one side of the shore at Jesus' urging to go to the other side. And they're on this lake that often would have these squalls come up. All the commentaries said it's typical of these lakes in that region, that these winds would come up and whip the seas horribly, and it would happen in a minute, and then it would last for a while and be gone in a minute. They couldn't predict them. They didn't know where they came from. They just knew that they could capsize boats and they could kill. So the apostles had reason to fear. So there they are in the boat. We're all in there with them, okay? We're in this boat, and all of a sudden, oh my God, here's one of those squalls. And the waves start slashing over the boat. The boat's filling up. The boat is filling up with water, and they're thinking, we're going to die. Legitimate fear. We're going to die. Jesus, what are you sleeping for? So they wake him. And this is what they say. Don't you know that we're going to perish? Don't you understand this? And then he stands up and he says, quiet, be still. And everything is peaceful. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were there witnessing that, that would be it. I would believe. Tell me to stand on my head, turn inside out. I'll do anything for you, Jesus. I believe. But that's us, I think. If we put this story back in the context of the whole Gospel of Mark, it comes in the 4th chapter. Only the 4th chapter. But if we go back to the 1st chapter, within the first 2 verses, we get the whole Gospel, according to Mark, written in 2 verses. First verse says, this is the story of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And the second verse says, and this is his way, meaning the cross and resurrection, the death and resurrection. That's the gospel. This is the story of Jesus Christ, Son of God, and this is his way. And then the 3rd verse starts. And we hear about 8 verses or 6 verses talking about John the Baptist coming on the scene. And then after that, for about 6 verses or so, Jesus gets baptized. And then after that, he calls his disciples, and we're moving into or toward the 2nd chapter, and then the miracles start. He cures Peter's mother-in-law. He casts out demons, quiets the demons. He heals a paralytic. He brings sight to the blind, and hearing to the deaf, and the mute speak, and miracle after miracle, healing after healing. And after every single one, this is the question that gets asked. who is this man? And the response is, now, yeah, but who is this Jesus? The response is, the Son of God. We were told in the second verse. First verse, this is the Son of God. Now, who is this gospel being written to, the apostles or to us? Who is this gospel being written to, the apostles of Jesus or to us? To us. They were probably dead by the time these gospels got written. They were written to us. Now, I have some friends that do this when they read a novel. They read the first page or two, and then they go to the last page. I say, oh, God, you're sick. I can't believe this. Why would you read the last page and get the answer to the whole novel? I want to know if it's going to be boring or interesting. I say, oh, my God, you've ruined the whole story. No, I know what's going to happen, but that's okay. I know if I want to read it now. Well, that's our Gospels. You and I know the whole story. Jesus died and rose from the dead. Is there anybody here who didn't know that? Jesus died and rose from the dead. We know it. We know who he is. And in case we don't know it, Mark tells us in the first two verses, this is the story of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and this is his way. And then after every miracle, practically, this is the question that the people ask or the apostles ask, who is this man? And we, the readers, say, Son of God. We know it. Why would Mark write it this way? Because every single story becomes a reaffirmation of what we say we believe. We are a people of the resurrection. We get it. We read the story of Jesus Christ, Son of God, and we get it. We understand every miracle is coming from some divine source within him. We get it. But they didn't. They didn't. Now, if that is so, and I think it is, then the question becomes for us, are we like the apostles? Do we get locked in fears, paralyzed, and can't go on? And I can tell you with absolute sureness, both for you and for me, yes, we do. It happens to me. I sit in the confessional and hear it all the time. People locked in fear. They don't know the steps how to get out. They don't know how to reach out. They don't know how to resolve. They don't know how to do something to change it. But we say we're a people who believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, that there is some divine source of power that flows through him, that when he reaches out to take our hand, he can bring healing, he can bring peace, he can help us to walk through our fears. Now, I think it's true of most fears that the challenge is to face them, not run from them. Running from them doesn't solve anything. But when we face them square on, when we get help to face them, we can actually break the power of the fear. And that's what Jesus was always trying to do. He even asked them, why are you terrified? What are you afraid of? You know, there is a place in the Gospels where Jesus says, fear is useless. Fear is useless. Well, Jesus, you're half right. Sorry. It's very useful when it alerts us to a possible or probable fear. That's what the emotion is supposed to do, to link us to something that we should be afraid of. And then we do something. But if it sticks in us and stays in us and grows in us, it is useless. In fact, it's damaging. Now, I have some psychologists in this church today, I know, and I think I'm right, but they can correct me afterward if I'm wrong. That kind of fear destroys. And I tell you, many of us, perhaps all of us, have some little fears that stay in us always. But Jesus is inviting us to trust that our faith and knowledge of him and opening our hearts to him in prayer and in a spirituality that is fruitful and gifting, that he can move us from fear to freedom. From fear to freedom. So I think the challenge for us is to find the spirituality that works for us, because everybody is different. To find the spirituality that we can make use of, that we can keep opening up deeper and deeper. We can ask the Lord, we can ask our God, we can ask the Spirit, guide me, help me. I'm afraid of this, Lord. This can't be good for me. Guide me, teach me, show me, illumine my pathway. You know, there are places we get to in life, I suppose, especially in grave illness and when we come toward death, that fear really can be a very damaging proposal in our lives. Today, we read the gospel, and again, the question is asked, who is this man? We know who he is. We know who he is. And we are asked to be people who affirm that faith. Last night, right seated here were 6 or 7 children who are in our RCIA program. They're in their 2nd year now, so we had our rite of welcoming. And I thought, what a gift to have this gospel, for them to remember when they took their first step to become catechumens, they heard this gospel. Imagine if at the beginning of their formation in faith, they were asked to believe in a Jesus who wanted to touch their fears and bring them trust and peace and confidence. Oh my God, what if all of us had been given that, hopefully we were, but had been given that to us in the earliest years of our faith. Trust in God, that he will help us in all of our experiences, even our greatest fears. As I get older, I think of death like I never did before I was 50. Oh God, I hope I'm not obsessing, but I do think of it. I think of illness because I've seen so many, I've anointed so many people who are gravely ill and suffer tremendously. And I think of the things that we fear in life, and I don't want to be gripped by them, but I recognize that they're out there. And I say to myself more and more, what is the meaning of church for me? I'll tell you what it is. I don't think God needs us here. God will be God if we come or don't come. I don't think he will be crushed or hurt or feel bad or feel less. I mean, God is everything. Everything's in God. God's in everything. And if God is depressed that we don't come, then he should be really depressed, because 2 out of 3 Catholics don't come on a regular basis. No, 3 out of 4. Like 23% come. So this is a big failure for him if that's what he's expecting. I don't think it's about God. I think it's about what God wants to give us. And I'll tell you what I think is the greatest value of church for me. It's being with you, and hopefully you being with me, being with each other. See, you don't get what I get. I get to look at all your faces. You have to look at mine. Sorry about that. But I get to look at all these faces out there. And I see a shaking of the head, a widening of an eye, a tear. I see what happens as I try to preach the word that's been given to us, and hopefully touch maybe a few moments in the homily, something that's real for individuals here. And I'm sure not everyone's moved. Maybe many won't even remember a word I said today. But you can see when someone connects. And it gives me more faith. It strengthens me. It encourages me. It ratifies or affirms what I believe. And when those connections happen between us and among us, this is what a community of faith is meant to be. A strengthening of the love within us. Helping us to grow in our beliefs. Giving us the spiritual energy that we're going to need one day when we're facing death or tremendous fear. Where does it come from? Where do we get it? Does it drop out of the sky? Maybe. But I'll bet you most of all it happens among us and between us. That we actually encourage one another in faith. That's what it's about. So we all better climb in that boat with the apostles. We need to be in that boat. Because I guarantee you, if you haven't had any big squalls in your life yet, you're probably only 2. But anything after that, get ready. They're coming. If not every day, every week, and some big ones. Ones that the boat is actually tipping. In fact, we might get thrown out of it and we're hanging on for our life before we climb back in, or are pulled back in, probably even more so. And it behooves us, you and me, to have a deep faith in Jesus Christ. And rather than to have it in isolation, what a gift to be a church, to have it together. Because that way, what you believe can help me, what I believe can help you, what we believe can help us all.